for anyone who doesn't know, I'll explain exactly what's going on here. Every single Tuesday for the next 2 months, I'm going to be doing a live property analysis of anybody's property that you guys send me. And what that means is that you may be looking to purchase property, right? You want to get an Airbnb and you found a property, you think it's going to be a good property, you've done a lot of your homework, you just kind of want somebody to triple check it to make sure it's going to be a good property. That's all I do all day, every day is analyze properties and forecast the revenue, figure out if it makes sense to purchase. And I want to be able to take this skill and help all you out as much as I possibly can in a 2-hour live session, trying to get through as many properties as possible. Okay. So if you have a property you're considering to purchase, every single Tuesday, I'm going to be here for 2 hours. We're going to send you a form about 15 minutes to 30 minutes prior to the call starting. And we are going to ask you to add your address of the home that you want me to analyze. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through those one by one. I'm going to try and get through as many as I possibly can, but it's first come, first serve. All right. Now, if I don't analyze your property, it's not the end of the world. The other half and objective of this call is for you guys to learn what I'm doing. So watch what I'm doing, pay attention to the things that I'm looking for, and make notes as you're going through, and like notice the things that I'm calling out. I'm going to do my best to teach at the exact same time as giving the information. Okay. So that's the gist of it. I do have my list up and ready over here, ready to go. When I go through the address or the property, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and I'm going to ask you to come on the screen. I'm going to ask you to tell me about the property, and we're going to try and go through as many things as possibly can. Now, before we get started, I want everybody to know that this is something that I would actually like to keep going for as long as possible, as long as you guys are finding it valuable and finding it useful. With that being said, the goal that we are going to try to achieve to keep this going is 1,000 people registered by the end of the 2 months. Okay. Because this does take a huge chunk of time out of my day to do, but I absolutely love being able to help you guys do this. And I want to ask you guys, if you're finding this valuable as we go through everything, to just share this with other people. And we're going to give you a link on this call to be able to share with other people to get them signed up. And the goal is that if we can hit 1,000 people registered for these events by the end of the 2 months, we'll keep it going for another 2 months. Okay. We're just going to kind of keep this growing as we go. If you're finding it valuable, of course. If you're not finding it valuable, just forget about it. That's totally fine. So, anything else, Leah, do you think they can think of that I should go through before we get started? Or should we just start ripping?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head.
All right. Sounds good. So with that being said, I'm going to try and make sure I don't share anybody's information. One thing I also want to mention, guys, is I am terrible with names. So I'm just apologizing before we even get started. I'm likely to screw up some people's names as we go through this. All right. But the first one we're going to do is in New Zealand. All right. Lauren McIntosh. Fairly easy name. Are you there, Lauren? And if you're not there, or if you are there, please
Hi.
unmute. Hey, how you
Hi,
doing?
I'm here. Good. How are you?
Good. You gave us a nice and challenging one over in New Zealand to start off, which is fun. I appreciate it. How's your day going?
Yeah, good. We're just about to go to the beach, so I'm just like multitasking over here.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll try and get this done fairly quickly. Luckily, AirDNA gives out their data for the entire world now, so not too big of an issue. I'm actually going to need your help to know which site I need to unlock here to go through. So I've got
Okay.
got the address. I just don't know which site to use.
So what do you want to see? The property for sale?
Yeah, is this property for sale? Is it your own personal property, or is it already an Airbnb?
Both. It's both. So it
Okay.
is our property, and we do
Okay.
Airbnb it, but we have it for sale, and we're trying to figure out whether we should keep it or we should continue to sell it.
Okay. Can you send your Airbnb link in the chat right now?
Yes, I can. Let me figure out how to do that. So if you open realestate.co.nz, the top one there.
This one right here?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the real estate one. Oh no, that's an old one. Go back. That's when we bought the house off.
Okay. No worries. Let's do this one maybe.
Yes, there we go.
Okay. Good looking property. All right, let's get all these things configured and figured out. every time we got to do this, we got to set everything up. So your scenarios, you're trying to figure out if you want to keep the property or sell the property, which is
Correct. So
yeah.
So it's like it's a big. I'm just gonna put the Airbnb link in here.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I'm
Okay.
going to configure some stuff here over on my end.
So
Yeah. So tell us everything about this property. You know, what's working, what's not working, why you're wanting to sell it.
okay, so it's a long story. So
Okay.
it's a double home. So upstairs there's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and that's the main home. And below that is a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom guest suite with a kitchen. So we were living downstairs and Airbnb upstairs.
Okay.
And then we decided to move houses. And so that lower level is currently empty. So if you're looking at that photo, go back one photo. So that lower level is our guest suite, which is where we used to live, and it's currently empty. So that's 3 bedrooms, 1 lounge, 1 bathroom, 1 kitchen. And then the whole top level is the main home, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms,
Okay.
etc. Yeah.
Okay. So you got 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms up here, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom down here.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And then on the next photo, on the front lawn, we have a tiny house.
Okay.
There with a 2-bedroom cabin.
2 bedrooms. So this is another 2 bedrooms right there. 1 bath?
Yeah, that's 2 bedrooms in that one that you were on, and then in the background is a tiny house.
What's up? Tell me.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Right. Then in the back of that photo is a tiny house with a kitchen and a lounge, etc.
The back here is a kitchen and a lounge as well.
Yeah, that tiny house building at the back.
Yep.
That's it's like a separate. It's got a deck in the middle, and that's got the kitchen, bathroom, lounge.
Okay.
etc.
Are you renting out when you rent it out on Airbnb?
Yeah, so,
are you renting out all of this?
No, we're only renting 1 bedroom because it's got a composting toilet, so we just decided to do 1 bedroom, but it does have capacity to sleep 4. We're just sleeping 2.
Okay. Is this it here?
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful looking Airbnb listing. So sorry, say that one last time. I apologize. This is a good one to start off with, by the way. There's quite a few moving parts here and it's in a different country altogether. But this is, are you saying this is rented out long term or short term? Hey Lauren, can you hear me?
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
No worries.
Difficulties.
That's okay.
Start again.
Could you just repeat, is this one being rented out short term or long term? Or not at all?
This is on Airbnb, so I sent the link for that one as well through the chat.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's the main house there that you're looking at.
Okay. And then this would be, that's still the main house.
And then the other one is the tiny house.
Okay. Does this tiny home share a backyard?
No, it's completely separate.
Completely separate. Okay.
See that photo there? You can see it's
yeah, you have a fence right there.
Yeah.
Shared driveway. Okay. Okay. So this is interesting. We got quite an equation. All right. So everyone following? Let's think about this one a little bit before I get too deep into this. So this one's on Airbnb, not on Airbnb, on Airbnb. And the home is going, you're trying to sell it for 1.6 million, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So let's type that in. We'll go 162501223. So I guess the first question is, why do you want to sell it?
Well, because we're not sure that we can afford the mortgage to keep it.
Okay.
Really, but That's mainly because we're not utilizing that lower flat, the lower apartment. But if we were to keep it, we would combine the upstairs and the downstairs, and we could sleep 16 people. And at the moment, we're sleeping 8.
Okay. So, the fastest way to do this is just to simply figure out, you're saying that you feel like you're not going to be able to afford it, as it's doing right now. You obviously have 2 listings already up and running that are making some sort of money. So I'm going to want to
Yeah.
figure out that. But there's going to be obviously a number where you're like, if this property can make X, I'll keep it. Right?
Correct.
And so
Yeah.
what is that number?
I feel like it would need to make $20,000 a month. A whole
Okay.
property.
Okay. So we're going $240,000 a year is what you need. Let's put it that way, right? Because is this to break even, or is this to make it
No,
worth
this
the
is
time and
to
effort
make
for
it
you?
worth my time and effort. Yeah.
Okay. And then what are you currently making on the 3-bedroom, 2-bath as is?
So per year, do you mean?
Yes.
This is where it gets tricky and why I need your help. Is because originally at the start of the year, we just had 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and then we added the spa, and then we opened another bedroom, and then and now we're about to open the ensuite as well.
Okay. So the 3-bedroom, 2-bath started out as the 3-bedroom, 2-bath started out as a 2-bedroom, and then you made it a 3-bedroom, you added in a spa, and then you're considering adding these ones down here as well. So let's just take what you've done so far, assuming that if it was a 3-bedroom that could sleep more people and had the spa, you would have done a little bit better than you're currently doing. And then we're going to
Correct.
match it up with what the rest of the market is doing to kind of figure that one out as well. So, what is it? What has it done, even with that scenario that you just explained?
So we have done 65,000.
Okay. And then the 2-bedroom, 1-bath, what has it done?
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant the whole thing in the last 12 months.
Okay, so in the 65,000 refers to this 3-bedroom, 1
Yes,
bath,
yes,
and
yeah.
then this 2-bedroom, 1 bath.
That one has done $5,000 in December.
Okay.
Because
So
we've
then,
only had it open in December.
okay. So what we'll try to do, so obviously this one only has 8 reviews, so you don't know exactly how much it's going to make over the full year just yet.
Yeah, and we're in the peak season as well.
Okay. So of this 65,000, $5,000 of that revenue has come from the 2-bedroom, 1 bath, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to remove that 5,000, and then we're just going to say it's unknown for these 2. But the objective is to combine the upstairs and the downstairs and then have this 2-bedroom, 1 bath. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And you've done 60,000 for just the one that you currently have. However, you kind of grew into that 60,000.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have just done 15,000 in December for that top one.
15,000 in December?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that we've opened it up and it's peak
Okay.
season.
All right. We're gonna have to. All these numbers are in New Zealand dollars. Is
Yeah.
that right? Okay. Let's head over.
Correct.
Is this New Zealand? Am I getting this
No,
off? No, this is New Zealand. All right. All right. All right. That was close.
that was Australia.
Slightly embarrassing. It is what it
Have
is.
you ever looked at New Zealand on here, or you haven't had the need to?
I haven't had the need to. I might have looked at it like once. I think I looked into Queensland. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Once.
Oh,
Yeah.
Queenstown.
Queenstown. Yep. Okay. So let's figure out where you are. So obviously you're trying to sell it for 1.6, but what I'm more so curious about is what your actual mortgage is right now. I don't know if we necessarily need that because you're just trying to make 240. So,
Well, yeah, our actual mortgage for us to be happy would probably be 1.5.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna start off with just trying to figure out if this property combination could make $240,000, and then if we need to go through the additional math, we'll go through it because this is what you're saying your goal is, and so regardless of what your mortgage is, obviously that's what you're happy with. I'm
Okay,
understanding
cool.
this
Yes.
correctly. Okay. All right. We have an understanding of the property. We understand the expectations. Let's figure out where you are. I need to go to local map. I'm figuring this site out as I go, and I'm also learning New Zealand as we go. So everyone bear with me. Seems like we're top middle. Oh, so that water that's near you, is that, it seems like oh, the water that's
Yeah,
near
so we're
you
in
is actually a lake.
we're on a lake. Our property's
Yeah.
on a lake and it's in the Lake District.
Okay. Is this the right district?
Yes.
Okay. We're getting there. Let's see what pops up. Just so everyone knows, I have certain filters on here, which would be the days available and review count. So in case anyone doesn't know that, it's kind of a standard thing that I talk about a lot. Always want to make sure that you have over 20 reviews with the Airbnb listing and at least one review every single month for the past 12 months. That's how you know you're looking at a full-time host. It's important to make sure you have a full-time host's data, so you're looking at good data. Additionally, you want the days available, which is how long AirDNA has been tracking it, to be over 271 days. And that's going to allow you to make sure you're also working with good data. Okay. So with that being said, we've got those two filters on. I think I also have some bedroom count filters. So I need to change these up too. But what I want to do before I do that is just make sure we've got the right area. So I'm going to zoom into this one more time. Actually, I don't know how to zoom in here. Okay, I can double click. So most of the data is actually showing over here, but you're located right here.
Yeah, so we're 25 minutes from Rotorua, but we're pulling guests that they want to come to Rotorua and we get them coming to us.
Okay. Which would, and I need to kind of brainstorm with you here for a second. My thought is that these homes up here and like over here and over here, anybody who's essentially outside of this town would be comparable to you because it's not in this little town, but just, maybe 25 to 30 minutes away along the lake. Does that count?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna keep the properties because we don't have a ton of data here. We only have 129. I mean, it's still a good amount of listings, but I'm still gonna keep these ones, even though they're in town. I think that there's gonna be three groupings of data. There's gonna be your in-town people, which they're going because they want to be close to, let's say, the restaurants, right? And then I'm assuming there's a beach like right here or something that people can go to.
Not really, but Rotorua has like thermal spas and geothermal activity that people go to there.
Okay. Okay. So there's the city grouping, let's call it. Then there's the people like you who are not on the water, but at a distance to the city, and then, or town, whatever it is. And then there's the people on the water, which we're going to obviously ignore those people as well, because that's going to be a huge advantage, I would assume. Would you agree with that?
Yes, however, would we have an advantage to being across from our lake?
I'm not sure yet. I'm actually was just about to check that to figure out how close you are. So
Because that lake that you see in Rotorua, you can't swim on,
at all?
but this lake, no, you can canoe on it, but you can't swim in it. It's not great water, but this lake you can swim and boat on.
Okay, so you can't swim here, but you can swim over here.
Correct.
Okay. So usually when it comes to waterfront, you've got to have the waterfront views, which you can already see, like one of the top performing properties is backed onto the water. That always drives revenue. This one's at the top two. Seems like this one has some sort of waterfront, this one as well. So I'm not surprised whatsoever by these ones, right? Because they have those things. Um, that's the sort of first thing. The next thing is, can somebody walk to a beach that gives them access? Now, that's not going
From
to
our,
necessarily, yeah, from this house, can they walk
yes,
to a beach? Yeah.
yes,
How far is the walk?
2 minutes.
Okay. Um, that's not displayed, just as a call out, not displayed in any of the listings on the first 5 photos. That would be something that I would want to try and highlight if you decide to keep them.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's, being walking distance to the beach is actually a really big deal. And I can see that I'm close to water, but I don't know how close I am to accessing the water because this could just be some sort of waterfront and the beach is, 10 minutes down the road that way. So,
Mhm.
okay. So let's figure this out. Now I have an understanding of the different comp that I'm looking at. What I need to do is think about how you're going to put this property together. So I'm actually only going to I'll analyze it as is there any world where you would keep the basement and the upstairs separate? Like,
Probably
is
not, because
okay.
the people upstairs would disturb the people downstairs.
Yep. That was
Yeah,
my
so
thought.
we would do it together, just otherwise we'd start getting bad reviews.
Okay. So I'm gonna leave it in as 4 bedrooms plus. That's gonna give me all the listings. And if we do that, even with looking at all of the different properties, especially the ones that are waterfront and the ones that have pools, the max they're making is about 109. We can still see waterfront over here, waterfront there, and we're down in the 90s. Um, so what I'm trying to say here is I know water is going to drive revenue. Water's views, those things drive revenue a ton. And we can see pretty well every one of these top performers is either waterfront or has a pool. And their revenue,
Mhm.
oh, this is in USD. Let me change this. Okay. That changes things a lot. Holy.
Okay.
Okay. We're now working in New Zealand dollars. Still looking at waterfront. So let me now try and find what I would consider to be a listing that is more realistic to your property because it's not waterfront and it doesn't have a pool. I don't like that this is hosted by a management company, but that's okay. So,
Well, a lot of homes in Rotorua are managed by them.
okay. Well, we'll have to try and navigate that. They tend to have not the best data just because large management companies do a lot of changing and configuration to their data and it kind of screws with things. So this property, see, this is what I mean. Like this property has no backyard, other than this little space that's actually a rooftop. It's probably in town, I would assume, just by the fact that it doesn't really have anything. Yeah, so it's going to be in
Yeah,
town.
yeah, it's in town, yeah.
And I mean, it's a good looking home. It's a 5 bedroom, 16 plus. It doesn't, to me, I'm confused why this one would be performing nearly as well as one that looks like this, but this could just be a bad listing potentially. I also haven't checked to see if it's good data. So it has to make so just so everyone knows what I'm trying to refer to here is that when I'm trying to validate if the number that I'm looking at right now is real or not, I first want to make sure it has over 271 days, right? Then I also want to make sure it has over 20 reviews. I also want to make sure it's got a review every single month for the past 12 months. But on top of that, I want to it has to make logical sense to me. So a property that has, not waterfront, doesn't really have a backyard, going up against one that has like a luxury waterfront setup is confusing to me, right? So it has to make logical sense
Mhm.
as well. And that's why when I see this, I'm like, is this the reason why this one's showing so high? Because the management company is playing around with the listing and it's screwing up the data. I don't know, but let's just go through, make sure at least that there's a review every single month for the past 12 months, and we'll kind of go from there. So as we can see, there's a ton of reviews actually with this one. A lot going on here, which is good to see. So that's pretty well
So
got reviews.
there's not a lot of properties in Rotorua that sleep 16 plus guests. So I'm wondering if that's why that other one, the deluxe Redwoods one, is
Yeah, I
worth a
mean
lot.
that's definitely a factor that I'd be keeping an eye on just in case. Um, this next one here as well is doing October, September, July, June. I mean, this one has a pretty solid amount of reviews, but then we stop right here from May to February for some reason, has no reviews. If we click into the listing, there's no VRBO. We only have the Airbnb link. So another way to vet if it's good data or bad data is we can see here that there's no reviews between February and May. Therefore, there should be no revenue being made during that time period. And so if we go to the revenue between May and February, you can see there's been quite a bit of revenue that was made each one of those months. So I wouldn't trust this data if I was using it. So we'll ignore that one. Okay, we might believe this one here. It seems like it has good data, even though I'm a little confused by it, but it's okay.
That one there as well is a popular one that we always see cars at.
Which one's that?
The one you're looking at now.
Okay. 8 bedrooms, only 12 guests, but 16 beds.
I think they got told off for having too many people, so they had to reduce it, but they can sleep a lot.
Okay. November, August. There's no July and there's only one August booking. When would be peak season here? You said right now, right? So
Yeah,
January?
right now. So July, August is winter, so it's
Yeah.
not peak,
Okay.
off peak.
May. So it's okay to see less reviews during the slow season. That's pretty normal. You just want to see a good amount during the peak season naturally. Okay, so this looks like good data from what I'm seeing. There's a good amount of reviews every single month. I mean, do you know how long ago they might have switched to having less guests?
I think it was pretty soon after they actually listed it.
Okay. They're kind of in town. It's nothing special whatsoever. Like bad photos, no real design. That's obviously just they're doing the heads in bed strategy, right?
Yeah.
No outdoor space either. No outdoor space. So that's two city spots that have no backyard setups or anything going on there, which is interesting. Which makes your backyard even more valuable, right? Here's another one that's also with Enlist. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, December. What I'm trying to do right now, just so you know, I'm trying to figure out how much this configuration of a 6 bedroom can likely make within the time frame that we have. And so I'm kind of trying to ignore all the top ones that are along the water and getting to ones that I would think be a little more comparison. Just going through them one by one to see, you know, do I think you can compete with these homes, right? Like between the amenities and your style and design and photos and all those things, and trying to just verify that we are looking at good data as we go through. So far the two that we have looked at, I would feel comfortable to say that you could outperform those ones just with the amount of people that you could sleep. Actually, now that I just think about it, you said these people got told they have to sleep less people. Is that something that
Yeah,
you would be
that's
concerned
because
about?
it's just because they're in a city and they're in residential. And I
Okay,
think, but legally they don't have to. Yeah.
interesting. Um, this home's not super comparable to you, but I'm gonna assume that it's a good listing. It's got an outdoor area, but they didn't do much with it. It's kind of just like on the further part, whereas you're well over here. It falls in the same category as you, such as that it's in eye shot of water, but it's not on the water. However, I don't think it's walking. I wouldn't call it walking distance to the water. So I see this as a
No.
property that you could outperform. So like what I'm trying to say is that this one, it seems like you can outperform. This one seems like you can outperform. Same with this, not this one, that's not good data, but this one, it seems like you can outperform. So we've hit 3 so far that, again, seems like you can do better than. So maybe if I do scroll up a little bit, we can see some more listings that if we go up, we might find that ceiling because I'm finding properties that your property just has more going on for it. One thing I didn't do well is kind of look through every single last photo that you have. So I'm just going to take a quick second to get an idea of the interior space. I just know your backyard is so strong. It's going to make a big difference. You got
The other
nice.
thing about our backyard is that, like, because I've been following all your videos, we have room to put a mini pit and
Okay.
we can improve the fire pit area. And
Okay.
I was thinking like an outdoor movie screen situation as well.
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah.
got space to do more.
Perfect. I love that. You can grow into it. You can add more amenities. You can keep being competitive and outperforming your competitors if you decide to move forward. This is a really awesome thing that you have created so far. And even this outdoor space is great too. One thing I actually think you're downplaying a little bit, just as a call out, is your view that you have. So this right here, where you can actually see the water from here, I would try to amplify that as much as I could, whether it be from the
Mhm.
deck space or from the living room space, but showing off the fact that you can see blue is a big deal. So trying to do something there. I obviously can't see the lower half of the home, but I'm assuming it's a similar look, feel, bedrooms, all that kind of stuff. What I will say is obviously you don't have like a mansion by any means. There's some good character down here, some good lighting as well. It's a good amount of space
Oh
for
yeah,
the
so
living room.
that's the lower level there.
Yeah. You could probably add a nice game room right down here if you wanted to bring in more people too. But with that being said, I just wanted to take a quick look at it, not spend too much time because we do want to try and get through as many of these as we can. So this one appears to be good data as well. I can already tell just based off of the number and how consistent they've been so far, but I always like to triple check. So far, so good there. See what I mean by the very first photo this person has is actually showing off the view of the water they have. That's their
Yeah.
key feature, right? They actually have the first three photos, even from the inside of the house like that. So this I wouldn't consider to be a very good listing. It's a bigger house than yours. It's got a huge lot, but they didn't really do much to the lot. It obviously has a better view than yours, so they're playing into their view a ton. But the indoor of the property is nothing exciting, and even the outdoor is nothing exciting. So it's another property I could see you outperforming.
And how much is that? 162.
162. But you're saying your property only made 60, but you didn't have the sauna and you only had it as 2 bedroom, and then you eventually got up to a 3 bedroom. But now you're
And
gonna
we were living downstairs too, which um it puts a lot of people off.
yeah, and it's also 3 bedrooms instead of 6.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, this is just going to be more of a luxury home. See, this is where now it kind of gets confusing because we hit that 162 on a property that is more luxurious, but yours can be more entertaining, which is something I talk about quite a bit. Where I like for there to be properties that are luxury properties in the market that I'm going to, because if I can then provide more amenities that people can do while they're there, I can steal the guest from the luxury home that's, beautiful. It's a luxury home, but it's boring, and bring them to my listing that has more fun and entertainment while they're on vacation, more things for them to do, right? So, when I look at that luxury property that's doing 162, it may be more luxurious, but you'd be more fun. And I think that you have a property that shows well that I could see people going for instead. There's one thing that I don't like doing, which is guessing at the top end. I like to find what I would consider to be like the most realistic number that we could hit, and then just staying with that, being like, that's the most realistic, but I don't know what we're going to do above that. And sometimes I've been off by $100,000. Well, I say like this property will make 150. It ends up making 250, but the data only told me it could make about 150. And I have a feeling that's what we're going to end up with your property here, just so you know, because now we're entering into properties that are so different than yours that it's just not going to be comparable. And I don't know what your true upper end potential is with this property. So
Yeah, okay.
does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Okay. So like again, another example of a bigger property that's on the water, no real good design to it, not a lot of entertainment to it. It's got a nice big kitchen, it's got the views of the water, it's on the water, but it's not anything exciting, right? There's not a lot of things to do. So it doesn't pull people in as much. So with that being said, I can see all these other properties either have a pool or the waterfront all the way up. So actually, except for this one, give me 1 second here. I hope this isn't waterfront. It's not, but it's obviously a mega property. 5, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, December, November, September. I wouldn't even consider you to be close to this property if you weren't really good at putting together a listing. Like your listing looks phenomenal. And this listing obviously looks really good too. So I mean, it's nothing over the top. This here is what's selling this property like crazy, right? It's obviously just a frame sell. They do, and it's got beautiful views. They took good sunset photos. The bedrooms are next to nothing. Bathrooms are nothing. The backyard is nothing. Again, so I was hoping this was going to be more of like a really beautiful listing like yours, really well put together, but not so luxurious and so close to the water. But it is. Say again.
There's really not a lot of competition in our, like if we do something phenomenal, with like a game room and everything, there's really not a lot to compete with.
That is correct. That doesn't mean you'll make 240 or even 200 from it. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes there's just not people willing to pay the amount of money that you need to make for it to work out, right? So you could have the most beautiful listing in the entire world with every single last amenity, but it's price anchored by the market that you're going to. People aren't willing to spend an arm and a leg to go there. With that being said,
Right.
there's clearly a good amount of people who are making over 150,000 on these properties, right? With a lot less things to do in comparison to yours. So, and again, you're 2 minutes to the beach, which is one of the swimmable beaches where the other one doesn't have that ability. That's a big kicker as well. So with that being said, what we've done so far is we've configured, I would put you somewhere around this like 150 to 175 is where I'd feel comfortable. I'm going 150 on the low end. I think you could do well on the low end. And normally I would do like a low, mid, high, but I can really only do a low and a mid because I don't know what your high actually is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd
Totally.
put you like if you do all the things that you're saying to do, I'd put you at 150 to 175, maybe 180 based off of these properties right here. But I'm still a little hesitant on the 180. Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
but that excludes the tiny house, doesn't it?
Yep, we're gonna head to that right now. So
Oh,
we've got
okay,
that
cool.
done, and then we'll go the 1 bedroom to the 2 bed. I'm just gonna do 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom because sometimes you get some 1 bedrooms that are really well done. And so now, okay. So if we're just doing simple math here, right? If you're doing somewhere between 150 and 180, then you need to make anywhere between 90 and 60,000 from the 2 bedroom to make it work. So right off the bat, we can see that we have 2 homes doing 100,000, maybe a handful more doing 100,000. And then we drop off pretty quickly there. Now we're down into the 80s, the 70s. And there's decent money being made there. Let's take a look at that 2 bedroom one more time so we can all refresh and remember exactly what it looks like, how the size of it, which is really what's going to matter. So it is small for sure. Is this one of the bedrooms? Yep.
No, that's just a loft, like a TV loft.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um,
So you're looking at like the tiny house, and that's that back building, and
yeah,
then the one that says bedroom is the cabin next to it, and there's another bedroom which you can't see.
I see. Okay, so it's a combination of that building and that structure.
Yes.
Gotcha. It's those two right there. Okay, cool. Um, Nothing in the backyard yet, but let's hypothetically say we could get some stuff there. That gives us a better idea. Shared
Outdoor bath
driveway.
and shower, which we could definitely maximize and do it better.
Okay. So this home would need to make 90 to $60,000, somewhere within that range for this to work. And there's a lot of homes in that range. So what I'm thinking to myself is the fastest way to do this is try to let's go below that range and see if your home could outperform the ones that are below it at a minimum. So let's go right down to like the 45 range and see, do we think you have a better listing than these ones? If we do, then we have the confidence that maybe we can go up. So I don't really think I need to go too deep into this one. At first glance, I can see that this is a fairly outdated design. There's a ton of reviews. This is like a very active host, probably a great host. But it would be a dated property in comparison to yours. The photos are blurry. It is close to the water, but I mean, that's probably the advantage that this property has is that's close to the water. That's definitely the advantage. Should have realized that before I clicked it. Let's go to this one, doing 54. This one has a pool, it looks like. So remember, like we did. So just to confirm one more time, I know I've already said this, but what I'm trying to do is look at the properties below, because I call this the base comp. And if I can feel abundantly confident that you could outperform these ones doing 45 or 55,000, then it would make logical sense that you could do better than them. And then that kind of gives us the answer that we're looking for, right? So this one has a pool and that's doing 55. That one's waterfront at 55. Let's go a little lower here. This one's doing 40. Seems like there's a bit of a drop. We're at 56 and we dropped down to 40 over 8 properties. So there's a bit of a drop there. At first glance, I think you could outperform this one, but there hasn't been a ton of reviews during this season. So I'm not going to trust that data. We're just going to ignore that. Let's take a look at that. That's a 1-bedroom. Try to stick with 2 bedrooms for now. Let me actually just get rid of the 1-bedrooms. Lower the amount of data that we're looking at. Okay. In list again, they have had good data, but here they don't. So they go from November to August in the first 4. So we're going to ignore that one. We've already looked at that one doing 54. That one doesn't seem too comparable at first glance. Same with that one. It's kind of higher up as a view. Some sort of pond front. There's clearly nothing going on here. This one looks more like yours. Yellow line just showed up on my computer. I have no idea what that is. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, for November. So this is some good data. We can clearly see there's a ton of reviews coming through. By the way, a lot of you are probably bored right now, and that's just the process. So I apologize if you're bored, but that's just kind of how it goes. So this is some good data. It's more in a farm field, but it does say 10 minutes to the hot pools, and you're 25 minutes. So still relatively close. It is smaller. Yours would still be smaller than this.
Yeah.
It's got a little farm to it, which is definitely an advantage. Yeah, that's going to be an advantage. Okay, I'm not finding a good comp here to give me any sort of confidence just yet. So I got to keep working through this until I can find one. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, December, November. November to October to June. Don't love seeing that. So I'd want to see if they're making any money during July and August. If so, we're not going to trust the data here. I know it's slow season there, but yeah, they're showing 3,500. They're showing at least 3,500 over July. So I'm not going to trust that data either. Let's keep going. I could technically just remove that from the equation, but I don't feel like it. I can see all these homes here are fairly obvious that you're going to outperform. Maybe. Maybe they're obvious, maybe not. They just look like they have really bad photos, and they're not really all that exciting of listings. 5 days, November, October, June to April. Not good data there either. Like, that's a pretty nice listing. 221 reviews, making 4,200. Let's see, December, October to July. What is going on with this data? Let me just check VRBO. See if maybe there's nope. It's only got 4 reviews on VRBO, so that's not useful data over there. So we can skip that. Here's a tiny home doing 30,000. 2 weeks, November, October to August to April. All right. So this is getting ridiculous.
Would looking at 1-bedrooms be more?
What's your reasoning?
I just think in Rotorua there's a lot of 1-bedrooms that are like that cute kind of tiny home feel, whereas the 2-bedrooms are more like cottages.
Okay. Let's try it. You have the local knowledge, and local knowledge is always extremely helpful. So let's see. This one seems to have a good photo right out front. 55,000. Listing didn't open up. That happens. This one seems to have a nice little photo to it as well. 140. It's a bigger property. 2 bedrooms, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, December, November. One thing to mention as I'm looking through this is that we're looking at 1-bedrooms, but just because you have a 2-bedroom doesn't automatically mean that you'd make more, because sometimes 1-bedrooms can do better because they're creating like a secluded romantic getaway, and people pay a premium for that, right? And so whereas like what you're doing here is you're kind of going for a small family. So this is going to have a bigger kitchen in comparison to yours. I accidentally closed your listing. Sorry, I just need to pull it back up so we can compare it. Alrighty. Yeah, okay. That's your kitchen. That's their kitchen. The photos aren't great. They have a bit of a backyard, which would be similar to yours. They did a little tub out here, which is kind of nice, but you know, it's nothing over the top. Barbecue with the cover still on it, taken. So it's not a great property, but it's fairly comparable. I would say yours is going to feel quite a bit smaller. You would almost really have to lean into the fact that it's a tiny property and kind of give it like one thing I would suggest if you kept the property is a photo like this one does make it feel really small in here. If you moved forward and kind of got low and took this photo, it would show off the seat a little bit better. Even if like maybe a couple was sitting there, it could show it off a little better, having some coffee with the door open. I don't know. There's little things you could do to not make it feel so tight, I guess is a way to explain that. Without misleading, of course. Okay. So that property there was doing 68. Interesting. 68, and it really wasn't anything that special. You could consider it in town as well, but I'm not overly concerned about that anymore. If you have a solid property, it seems like people will be willing to come to you.
So I have looked at that one before, and I've felt like that's like a comparable one.
Yeah. Okay. There's been a couple properties around the $55,000 range that I felt like you were going to land at, or were fairly comparable. Obviously, this one doing 68, I can see you being comparable to that one as well. If you did 5,000 in peak season, right? So this is peak season, and you did 5,000 in this little one. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you did that, oh, this is only a 1 bedroom. Am I an idiot? Sorry. Is this supposed to be a
So
2 bedroom?
we've only got 1 bedroom open at the moment, and it's like a couple's getaway. But we
Okay. Sorry
have
if I
the
missed that.
available option to open up another bedroom.
Okay. My apologies if I missed that. Okay. So if you made 5,000 in peak season, then naturally you're not going to be able to make 5,000 every single month for here on out, which would be the $60,000 throughout the entire year. And that this property that we just looked at is apparently doing 68. So you would have had to do quite a bit more in peak season to compete with this one, right?
Yeah.
And obviously that's not the case. We have to assume that you're going to do quite a bit less than this one, bring you more so down to like the ones doing 50,000 or even 45,000. Now, mind you, if you were to obviously add something into the backyard, maybe that could make a bit of a difference. To, you know, these guys had their opening photo is kind of showing off like a little bath outdoor tub. I don't think you could do anything like that, obviously, because of the privacy and how close it is to everybody else. But
see that photo, it has got a bath and an outdoor shower, but
okay.
if we keep the property, we would build it into being like a private shower.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm like, I guess I don't feel comfortable to say whatsoever that the property is going to make 68,000. Like, yes, you could add some tweaks to it and amenitize it a little bit more. But I would not feel comfortable saying 68,000. I would feel more comfortable around like 45,000. And that's with the tweaks that you would do to the property to kind of bring it there. And so then therefore, and I'm conservative by nature. That's what's allowed me to do what I've done. So you may be a little bit less conservative. I'm just trying to be as conservative as possible because I've spent only 50 minutes staring at this quite a complex property in a country I've never studied before, right? So just doing my absolute best over this time period. And I guess what I would say is I'm seeing somewhere between, let's say, like 40 to 50, right? For the 1 bedroom, which could be a 2 bedroom. I apologize for missing that. 40 to 50,000, and you know, maybe 150, 180 over here as well. And so in your worst case scenario, you're looking at 190. In your mid case scenario, you're looking at, you know, 230, which is fairly close to that 240 that you're looking for.
Okay.
I would assume that if every single last thing went right, you could hit your 240. If you guys just crushed it on hosting, pricing, and the amenities that you added, there's a chance that you could hit the 240. I personally am not a huge fan of properties where you have to hit that best case scenario for it to make sense. I think that's
Yeah.
a really dangerous room to play. With that being said, you already own the property. And so it's not like you're about to purchase the property, which is usually what these calls are about, where I'm advising people. It's like you already own it. And maybe it's not, I don't know if it's moving or not. Maybe it's not selling. I don't know. But like I could see a window and an opportunity to get to the 240 to make it potentially work for you. But it's not guaranteed by any means. Naturally, nothing's really guaranteed in the Airbnb game.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on everything that we just went through?
Yeah, that's kind of what our gut feeling is. It's not selling for what we want it to sell for, so we're kind of like thinking we might chance it. And that even I might just run some numbers myself at like the 190 and see where that would get us at the, yeah.
It's good way. Yeah, good thing to think about it. Hope maybe even by doing some of the additional changes you do that could make it a more desirable property, like to sell, right? If you had like the privacy wall
Exactly,
around
yeah.
that outdoor tub and add a couple more things in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, it's an interesting scenario. It's an interesting property. I would say it's one of these ones that's like towing the line of could work, could not work, right? But you obviously
Yeah.
know your situation better. And my objective on this call is kind of to say, hey, this is as far as I can get for you. Now take this information and ultimately make the end decision for at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Does
Cool,
that help?
thanks. I really appreciate you picking us all the way
Yeah.
over here.
Well, yeah, I didn't pick you. You were just the first one. So I hope you found that valuable. That was the longest I've spent on a property so far, just so you know, out of all the ones we've gone through. So that was one of the more complex ones that I've had to go through. Thoroughly enjoyed the complexity of it though, and try to make that make sense. I hope it's helpful.
Yes, and
And
it is so helpful. Yeah, thank you so
awesome,
much.
Lauren. Great to hear. Make sure to share this whole concept of these live presentations with other people if you think they'll find it valuable.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. We're going to move on to the next
All right,
person.
see ya.
See ya. Okay. One little housekeeping thing here before we move on to the next one is Leah, could you make sure to hop into the Go High level and grab the link for people to sign up and register for this so that other people can share after this call with Facebook groups or anything along those lines if they want to invite some other people to join this. And then you can put that into the chat and let people know that they can use that link. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. We're gonna move on to the next one, which is actually, sorry, let me share this with you guys without giving away anyone's private information so that you can see where you are in the list. I meant to do that at the beginning. I apologize. Some of you might think that like you're up next and I don't want to waste your time. So this is the list of the people that we're going through. As you can see, I have made it through one in 55 minutes. Now, naturally, it usually goes a little bit quicker than that, and I'll do my best to go quicker. That was just a pretty complex property, but hopefully we can get through like 2 or 3 more in the next hour or so. Okay, cool. So next up is Jacob. Jacob, if you are there, could you unmute yourself and we can get going?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Jacob?
Good. How are you?
Good. How's your day been?
Yeah, I can't complain. We got lots of snow, so we've been inside for about 3 days. But
Really?
it's been
Okay.
it's been good.
No snowmobiles?
No snowmobiles. We got some sleds for me and the kids go outside, and then I got a ice bath that I keep outside. So I've been trying to
Nice.
use that. It's been fun.
Nice. Awesome, man. How's the I was actually just thinking about that today because I've been taking cold showers for like years now. And I thought about a cold tub outside and having to walk out in the cold and then get into something even colder. What's that process like?
Oh man, this morning it took some mental acrobatics to get to it. I had to walk outside a couple times, come back in, and then finally, I'm just like, all right, it's go time. You just gotta
He's got to do
rip
it.
the band-aid
Got to do
off.
it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you, man, for doing that because that's not an easy thing. All right, let's get into your property. Tell me about what's going on here. And tell me about this property. Tell me anything you want to tell me about this.
Yeah, so this was just one that I did a virtual tour on, I think, a couple days ago. It is unfortunately already pending under contract with another buyer, but I think the exercise would still be great. We're looking to purchase one in the Minneapolis area. That's where my family is, and obviously want a cash flowing investment and be able to, we got a growing family, so staying in my parents' basement, stuff like that, just isn't real cutting it anymore. So kind of
Mhm.
a two-pronged approach here, but I just loved this house, loved the location, and I was just like, I don't know too much about this area, and I
Okay.
tried plugging in the address to several different tools, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. First question is, are you familiar with the regulations within Minneapolis when it comes to Airbnbs?
yeah, to a degree, the realtor shared with me that she had one in the same zip code, whatever, and it's like a legality thing where you just got to get a permit, basically, or license or something. But she said it was very easy to do. I
Okay.
was like,
If I were you, I would, I apologize to all realtors on here. I would, I'm sure your realtor's doing the best thing that for their situation, but I would get I'd call up the city and ask the city hall, call them up, whoever's in the, regulation area when it comes to Airbnbs, and just simply ask them, like, what are the rules? What do I need to do? And figure it out for yourself, because one thing you do not want to do is buy an Airbnb that cannot be legally rented out.
yeah, it sounds awful.
Can't stress that one enough. Okay. So this should be fairly straightforward. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna figure out your breaking point. Okay. So the home's going for 400,000. How much would you put down on the property? 20%, 10%, 5%? What are you thinking?
Yeah,
Or
that's a
can
good
you?
question. I mean, I think that's something that too that I need a little bit more knowledge on is, what different loans require different down payments. Like, can you get investment down payment for 5% or 10%? Like, is that even possible?
Most likely not. You can get if you do a second home loan for 10%, but you got to be about 50 miles away from your primary residence. You can do a 15% debt service coverage ratio loan, so a DSCR loan at 15%, but you're going to pay a little bit higher on the interest rate naturally. What I'll do is I'll leave you at 20% just as a clean metric to use here, and then you can go and sort that out afterwards. This analysis here is kind of going to be an analysis for you to get an idea of what a home like this could potentially make in this area, and then you can use that knowledge as you continue down with your research. Does that work?
Perfect. Yeah, that's
Okay,
great.
cool.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do 20% down, 7.5% interest rate. I'll do a 3% closing, which is a little bit on the higher end depending on the market, but I'm gonna leave it there. How much additional capital do you have to put towards the property? And sorry, yeah, how much additional capital? That's gonna be furniture, renovation, amenities, hiring anybody to do it. What do you got?
30,000.
Okay. And so that's going to be a total of $122,000 out of pocket to get that property up and running. Do you have any Airbnbs currently?
I had one that I owned, but I just sold it.
Just sold it. Okay. Um, cool. So let's go over to the operating expenses and let's get these dialed in. Your internet's roughly going to be about 100 in that area. Do you know what the utilities would run for a home in this area?
I don't.
Roughly. Okay. Let's do 400 just as it seems like an older home-ish, 1923 older home. So let's assume that it's a little bit more expensive and we'll just put it at 400. Pest control, we'll do, I don't know, 50. There's going to be no pool. You're going to be living in the area, correct?
No.
Okay. Um, let's say your outdoor lawn maintenance only costs you $100 a month
Okay.
for the area because it's only going to be part of the year. Maybe you need snow removal. Let's put at 150 just in case.
Okay.
Software is going to be your price labs and any PMS that you use. And then your cleaning. Do you have any idea what the cleaning is going to cost for this area?
I would say probably around 175, 200.
Okay. One other thing I can't recommend enough is just calling calling 3 companies, getting actual quotes. I've made a huge mistake with that once before.
Okay.
Your amenities for this are probably going to be maybe 150. That's your soaps and shampoos. Are you going to manage it yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you know what the property taxes are off the top of your head? If not, I can find them fairly quickly.
No, I don't.
All right, no worries.
Let's see here.
We're looking at just over 5,000. Okay. Insurance. Do you have any idea what that would come out to?
I think you put in 500. Sorry, I just want to make sure that.
Oops. Thank you. Okay. Insurance. Do you have any idea on that? If not, let's just put 200. And then some reserves for this property because it's going to be a bit of an older property. Let's put about $300 in there just in case stuff starts breaking. And so that comes out to a total monthly expense of $3,217. And so that works out. Let me put this right here. Let me just configure this real quick. And then what we're going to do is okay. So we're good to go there. We've got the operating expenses in there. We've got your debt service in there. We've got the amount that you need to spend. What I now want to figure out is where this breaks for you. And so what I mean by that is I'm going to ask you a simple question of, would you move forward with this property if it did X, right? Which means it everyone's a little different. Some people are okay with the property losing $2,000 a month because they've got other reasons. Other people need it to make $5,000 a month. And so I want to see what your breaking point is. And then from there, we can then go look at the properties that are available. Okay. So if this is doing 38 and 26, we're looking at like 60, well, maybe higher, 70. So about 65,000 is going to be break even. So if this property made $65,000 throughout the entire year, you'd lose about $450. Would you be okay with that?
No.
Okay. Let's say it made 85,000 and now you're walking away with 19,000. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. If it made 75,000, you walked away with about 10,000. Would you be okay with that?
Yep.
If it made lower than this, would you be okay with it or no?
No.
Okay. Perfect. 75,000 is our metric then that we're looking for. Recommend everybody walk yourself through that exercise. It'll speed up this entire process a lot faster. Anything else I should know before we start looking into the data?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Let's take a look at the properties. I was going through the photos. I didn't mention it to you guys, but I'm just gonna actually go to this configuration down here because this is gonna be really helpful for me. I can see where what I'm looking for is where the common space is. So I can see we have a dining room, which is good, right? This is a 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom home. Is that right? Nope, 5 bedrooms. And so it's going to sleep anywhere from like probably 12 to 14 people, I would assume. And so then therefore we need a good amount of common space, and you can clearly see we got like a good dining room area, good living room area. There's even a little front area that maybe you can do a little bit of games with. Maybe you can get creative right here. The rest is going to be obviously bedrooms all the way over here as well. It's all bedrooms on that second floor, but the basement has a really, really large unfinished basement. It's not too creepy. You can definitely, bring this to life a lot more in comparison to the way that it currently looks to make it more fun, entertainment. And this would be the area where, you could put a bunch of games over on this side or on this side. You could put some red curtains down here and create like a little movie theater on this half and game room on that half. There's quite a bit of things that you can do down here. Maybe paint the walls to give it more color, feel, whatever it may be. And all of a sudden the property is starting to come to life, right? So tons of common space there that you could use for this. Let's now figure out the location of this home so we can figure out exactly where we're going. But it's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. The backyard is another thing I want to take a quick look at actually before we move forward. So you have all this space over here, but it's covered in snow, so I can't really tell what's going on. But I would assume that this is all private grass space that you could use with a little bit of a deck. Is that right?
That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll just assume that for now, even if we don't know 100%, just for the exercise. What I'm trying to figure out is the map, and I hate this type of Zillow. It is very difficult to navigate. So give me 1 second while I try and figure this one out. Map's got to be somewhere. If anyone knows, let me know. Clearly missed it. It was easier to find in the New Zealand website. Just Street view? Oh, this is the map right here. Okay. I'm an idiot. So you're located south of Minneapolis.
That's right.
Okay. Not too far away from downtown from what it seems like.
Now about 10 minutes, maybe 5
Okay.
minutes.
Against a highway.
Yeah, on the other side of that bridge or that wall.
Yeah. I actually like that, just so you know. Means you get a cheaper home, but it doesn't make that big of a difference to people who are only there for a couple of days. So it's actually a bit of an advantage. Okay, so you're working with a 5-bedroom. Let's focus in on the sort of like, there's gonna be a lot of homes here. So I'm probably gonna, let's just see how many 5-bedrooms there are, and we'll start there to start off. 71. Okay, as I thought, there's gonna be a ton of them. But I can see there's some over in St. Paul and a bunch up here as well. So I'm actually gonna lock in on your bottom half where you are because it's such a big location. Now, what I'm about to do here, guys, you won't be able to do with most likely the subscription that you have. I paid too much for this one, and it allows me to be able to do that. You can just go to the submarkets and do the exact same thing. But for the sake of the speed here, I'm going to do this. Okay. So what we've done is we locked into the area where that property is, and now we only have 20, well, we still have 24 listings, which is way more than I expected. But what I can see is actually like a grouping that's really close to downtown, and then we have a handful that are back here. So I almost want to remove this grouping that's close to downtown because I'm assuming that's a bit of a neighborhood or some sort of specific area. So I'm just going to check one more time how far away. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch right there. You're clearly in a different spot. So I'm going to redraw this one more time to get rid of those ones there and grab more of these ones out here. Kind of want to grab those ones too because they seem just as far as away. Let's do that. I'm going to get some more data out that way. I never have a perfect logic or reasoning, but the what I'm going for here is I'm just trying to grab listings that are within the same driving distance to downtown as the listing that we're looking at, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. So now we're down to 14, what I consider to be very comparable type properties to yours. And you're okay with making 75,000. And so that's what we're going to take a look at. Before I start clicking in any of these listings, what I just want to point out is something that would scare me. I don't want to swear, so there's a lot of people here. So something that would scare me because we got a property doing 176. And I bet you, Jacob, you looked at that and you're like, ooh, that's pretty sweet. I bet you I could do that. However, 8 later, we see one doing 68,000. That's a gigantic drop from there to there, right? So that would scare me. And I want it to scare you as well and scare everybody else because this is, in other words, this is rare, right? Obviously, we see another listing that's only 2 away from this one, doing about $40,000 less. And it also seems like it's really well put together. Now, I want to understand why these properties are doing what they're doing and why there's such a big drop off. Maybe the listings are just that much worse, or maybe they're over here in comparison to over here. But these are the first initial things that I'm seeing as I'm going through this. Okay. I personally hate it when I see that big of a gap that quickly because this means like you got to do everything right. But if you miss it, you're falling apart. That's kind of how I see this. Okay. So the first thing I'm actually going to look at is this one doing 79, which is appears to be like a well put together listing. One thing I do want to point out here is with $30,000 for renovation amenities and furniture, you're not going to be able to do the putting green and the hot tub and the pergola and the sign and all these different things that I can see just in this initial photo, or the turf that you can see over here either, with a budget like that, because most of that money is going to go into just simply the bedrooms and the dining room, the living room, the game room, the multiple sheets, everything in the kitchen. Like that goes quick, right?
Can I have
so-
some muffin too?
So this listing here, I'm already a little iffy when I review it because it's got wallpaper all over the place, right? Which is not a cheap thing. So with that being said, let's still go through it. We got 130 reviews, which is good to see. October, September. Seems like we got a good amount of reviews every single month, which is kind of what I would expect for like a well-designed, put together listing. It's doing solid, right? So good listing. Again, it's got a strategic design. It's a little bit more feminine with what it's going for. So maybe it's trying to get the bachelorette parties a little bit more. It's gonna have a bigger kitchen in comparison to yours. not the end of the world, but just calling it out as I see it. Again, like the wallpaper here, the design, it's going to be tough to compete with on your budget. Now, I'm not saying it's a terrible thing, your budget. I'm just being realistic with what things cost, right? I like the way that they design these. Now, it's not over the top by any means in any of these rooms. Like these are the cheapest possible bed frames that you can get, which is nothing wrong with that either. And then they've just added some good color in here. And what this is doing is it's giving it a bit of a design, but also hitting the right demographic as it's doing it at the same time, right? So that's what they're accomplishing on actually like a pretty good budget for this home. You got 4 little photos here, a throw pillow, and the blind, and all of a sudden it's a girly room, right? Obviously, a couple more things there. Same with here. They were strategic on the paint colors that they chose. Little makeup room right here. Yeah, so this is definitely designed for bachelorettes. Solid outdoor. Even the home seems to be painted on the outside. The deck was painted multiple different colors. Outside shed was painted. They added a good amount of amenities. Like these are all the things that you expect you to do in this property. One thing they don't have here is a game room in the basement, which would be something that you could potentially have. They've gone to for bachelorette parties. My thought is like, could you go for families? Would that make a difference? But they're doing 79,000 on a home that you wouldn't be able to compete with because you couldn't design it as well. You make it close, but you wouldn't get as far. What are your first thoughts on this one, Jacob? We've only looked at one so far, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably true. I mean, this one looks like I think it's well designed. I think it's got a lot of time, effort, money put into it, and for it to see it only do 79. It is very curious to me though how something can have such a wide or huge gap, kind of like you'd mentioned, from that 171 to this 71, where it doesn't seem like it's that much different, but in obviously in revenue, it is making $100,000 more. So I don't know. It's a wild one.
It doesn't overly surprise me, to be honest. I've seen this happen quite a few times where you got this outlier property that just adds a ton more to their property. This one's obviously going for a bachelor pad, where the last one's going for a bachelorette, which would be a first indicator of maybe I should focus on males instead of females, right? The interior here is quite large. It says 16 plus, but I would assume they can probably sleep more than 16, just given, yeah, 30 plus people. So that's one of the biggest reasons why this property is outperforming the other one. And they clearly went for the heads and beds because they even took their main room or one of the main rooms and added beds into it. You have a bed here and a bed here, 2 Murphy beds inside the living room, which is pretty wild. Hyper focused on males though, so this is creating an experience for guys. So naturally, guys are going to be willing to pay more to stay here because it's going to amplify the experience on a bachelor party. They even have a similar basement to yours as well, with the exposed ceiling and the cinder block walls, and they painted it just kind of like I was referring to. Added lights, added things in there to make it not so dingy, and it feels like a more respectable place to be. You can see there's more seating over here. Funny enough, they actually have girls in these photos over here, even though it was heavily male focused in the beginning. So, and then we haven't even gone to the backyard yet. So they added a hot tub, they added the putting green. Like the way I'd be looking at this property is, if you did half of what they did, it could give you a leg up. But I think half of what they did is this property right here. This is an example of half, right? They sleep 14 people, whereas the other people sleep 30. That's an example of directly half. And they have a good backyard, whereas the other one does have a good backyard as well. They don't have the interior game room. They've got a good style. They went for females instead of males. So like I can see the differences that are causing this, but I will say it's most likely the fact that they have 30 people, game room, a hot tub, and this putting green is definitely making a difference as well. And it looks like they even painted the outdoor black, or as much as they could black. Do you see the differences there, Jacob?
I do, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that gigantic amount of people to be able to sleep, I think, has a huge thing. I didn't realize it was 30, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Okay.
Yep. Always gotta be looking out for that stuff. What I'm doing right now is I just want to take a look at the 4 bedrooms quickly because I know that, honestly, this one is making me want to just tell you to not move forward with the property. because it's well designed. It's got pretty good photos. It's got a solid backyard. It is way over here by St. Paul, though. Not sure how much of a difference that's going to make, but probably shouldn't pull those ones in. Let me just take a look at a couple of 4 bedrooms before officially calling it on this one. Any thoughts or questions as I'm going through this? Jacob?
It does seem like the higher profit ones are closer to Minneapolis. It's kind of what it seemed like.
This one is actually this one doing the top performing one, that 179, and the Bachelorette pad doing 79 are almost in the same spot.
Oh, okay, so it's right in between.
Yeah, I don't know. The location's confusing. Sometimes it's just more about creating an amazing space and people will go. This one had quite a few months that were missing. February that's missing, there's December that's missing. I think there was another month in here that was missing as well that I was looking for. I don't feel too good about using this one, so I'm just gonna skip over that. There's this one doing 62. Really well designed. December, November, October, July, June, May. So tons of reviews on this one. This only sleeps 7 people. Let's see where it's located. Again, not that I don't think it's gonna make a huge difference. It's fairly close to yours, close to the highway as well. Well designed. Seating area over here, nice little seating area over here. Kitchen is more modern, well put together. Not a ton going on outside, which, the difference between this one and potentially this one could be obviously the number of people that sleep. So this one sleeps double the amount of people, but it also has a pretty solid backyard as well. A lot of the times what I'm doing here is I'm trying to figure out like what could be driving the revenue over one listing compared to the other and trying to make sense of that as I'm going to then figure out if it is that reason and if you can match up with it. This property here is doing 62,000 as a 4-bedroom that sleeps only 7 people.
Wow.
The 7 people is the part that's interesting to me because it's like, well, what if you slept 16, right? Would that help your case? And you don't have to be as well designed. So just give me a couple more minutes here. I'm just gonna go through a couple more listings.
Okay.
To see if we can make this work or not. Okay. So this one seems to be good data. It doesn't really have good photos. It's very, very basic design. So it's kind of confusing why this one would be performing as well as it is performing. There's not much to it. It even looks a little dingy. I don't want to use this as like the only comp that's very like, oh, you could definitely beat this one. It's in between the 2 cities, big time. All right, let's grab another. It did look like you could beat that one, but that's the only one that we've come across so far that did feel that way. So I'm not making a final decision based off of that one.
Yeah.
April, March, October. Okay. This is a very clean design, which I see this happening a lot where people just put together like a very clean listing and it does okay, just not great, but it gives people a very comfortable place to stay. A lot of people do look for that over just like entertainment type places, but they never tend to do better than entertainment places. There's no outdoor amenities to this listing, but it's very clean. I mean, you can accomplish a clean listing through just solid photos. So I do feel like you could outperform that one. That's at 65. I wish this one was better data. That one's at 66. Let's go with this one at 80. Curious about this one as well. I'm actually gonna do this one first. Oh, this one's on Evolve, so I always ignore Evolve's data. I don't find it useful. This one's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, a bit of a more modern design, which could be helping its revenue. Like people could be booking it because it's a little bit more modern. that tends to help. Seems like a good amount of reviews all the way through. Not much to it. Again, another very clean listing, well put together. It's not very large space there, but it's decent. Just seems like the rooms are a little bit small. And then there's nothing in the backyard and there's no basement. So this is an interesting one where I bet you the fact that it's a little bit more modern is helping it get booked. I wonder if the location of it is also helping it get booked potentially. But it's modern, but it's just small. So it's missing all of the space for entertainment and amenities. And it's right in between the two cities. But that one's doing 80.
That's crazy. That one's doing 80.
Pardon?
So it's kind of crazy to me that that one's doing 80. Doesn't seem like seemed like clean real estate type photos versus like an Airbnb type.
Yep. Some people will go for that over the other ones. And I personally wouldn't, but I know that other people do things that I wouldn't do, so always got to keep that in mind. So it seems like a pretty solid listing as well, revenue wise. Basement that is finished. Bit of a game room to it, nothing special whatsoever in the way that it's put together though. Decent. Like everything looks very clean here as well. So I think I've seen enough. It's got a hot tub. I guarantee you that's helping. Oh, and look at that. Guarantee that's helping drive revenue. It's now out in the backyard though. So this would just be like an outdoor little setup if they wanted to, but it's out there now. And that one was doing 82. If I was in your situation, I would be thinking like 65, potentially 75, potentially 80. Like that's even, I mean, even that's tight. I'd probably put this lower at 60 just because of the smaller budget. Like it's, if you were to furnish the entire home, you would then have to decide, should I get a hot tub or should I get put in a game room? Right? Because like you wouldn't be able to afford both on day one. Now, mind you, you could grow into the property. You could start off with the hot tub, then add in the game room slowly, piece by piece, and continue to market it and advertise it in general. But yeah, like this is what your situation I feel like would look like. And I feel like 80 might even be giving you more than I think, just because of, once again, coming back to this really well put together bachelorette home that's also doing 80. But that's like top line if you were to, reinvest into the property. So like what I realistically could see is that maybe in year one, you would end up around 60,000. And then in year two, if you were to, reinvest in the property, you could get a little bit higher, but you'd be looking at somewhere between, 14,000 to losing about 5,000 or so. If the property cost $100,000 less, that wouldn't go up by too much. You go from losing 5,000 to breaking even at 1,200. That's $100,000 discount on that property.
Okay, I gotcha.
So it's just something to keep in mind. What I would recommend that you do in this scenario is, I've only looked at this little corner, right? There's obviously other properties up over this way and over this way as well. I would try to start studying each one of these different areas to try and figure out what are some of the reasons why some properties would be seriously outperforming the other ones. But I mean, even when we look at all the 4 bedrooms in this area, we're kind of capped at this 100 at the top performers. But I'd be trying to, if you were very serious about trying to find a property in this area, I would suggest trying to figure out what is driving amenities or what is driving revenue. We saw the one property with 30 plus people. That was obviously helping in that scenario. It seemed like when people had some hot tubs, that was also helping their scenario. A little bit more of a modern home seemed like it was helping its scenario. Now, modern home is going to cost a lot more, so maybe you don't want to go with that option and figure out the other things that drive revenue on a lower purchase price of a home. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
What are your thoughts on all that?
No, it just is it's good to kind of think about, I think, how important, it just seems like the most important thing is to put like, I don't want to just say like a bunch of money, but like a good amount of money towards the amenity aspect, and the, like, just, it may be better to purchase a house that, is less for down payment or less for like a total cost, so that you can provide an experience. I guess location matters too, but it just seems like the amenity and everything is probably the most important, it seems like.
I put a huge emphasis on it. I think it gives you a competitive edge. I've had people debate me on it and say it's not as important and that you can get away with it in different scenarios. Personally, if I'm putting my money towards an investment, I want to have a moat around my property in some sort of way. And so, whether that be I'm going to have things that nobody else has, right? Everyone else is selling bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchens, and living rooms. And I'd sell the exact same thing, but also sell the amenities as well, which would be like the hot tub and the putting green and those sort of things. And time and time again, we can see that those definitely help drive revenue, give you a bit of a competitive edge. And I think that as time goes on, people will keep reinvesting into their Airbnbs over and over again, and they'll slowly improve them and add those and whatnot. And so this just kind of gives you like a leap ahead of where everybody else is going. One thing I did mention on that property multiple times was you could grow into it, right? So like you could start off with what you have now and then slowly build onto it. That's another thing that you want to keep in mind when you are looking for a property is, hey, I can only do this on day one, not the end of the world. Does the property still hit metrics that I'm okay with? However, does it have space for me to continue to build on from here, right? Is there a room in that backyard for me to do something? Is there a room in the basement for me to do something, right? To then keep giving more value to outcompete as time goes on.
Yeah,
You find that helpful, Jacob?
I do, yeah. That's helpful. Do you recommend people to like just kind of thinking out loud is to get like some type of loan or line of credit to get more amenities up front and then kind of have your cash flow pay for that? Like if you're in like 12
Very,
months.
very, very rarely do I recommend people to get a loan to pay for those kind of things. Very rarely. It's got your situation has to make a ton of sense. I'm not a huge fan of it. But if you are taking out an amount that you feel comfortable with, right, at an interest rate that's not terrible, and then you underwrite for that. So like when we're on your sheet there, right, we have your debt coverage, which is going to be about 20,000. Now, if you were to go take out a loan for another 30,000 to get the hot tub, to get this, to get that, your debt service is going to go up. And so then you just underwrite for it. If you then feel like you're going to land in that like 100 to 120 range, which let's just hypothetically say that's the case, and the numbers still make sense, then that's where it could make sense. Did that make sense? Said make sense like 10 times there, but did that make sense?
It does, yeah. So if you're going to do that, make sure you underwrite for it and yeah, just make sure.
Yeah, like
conservatively.
yes. Just, it's a math equation at a certain point. There's going to be a breaking point. If you loan and get like a $300,000 loan off of credit cards and you got to pay it all back, like, yeah, it's you're going to have to make a shit ton of money to be able to cover that and actually make that work, right? So there's a breaking point where these things work, but if you run the numbers on it, it could eventually make sense. Any other questions before we hop to the next person?
No, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Give me 1 second here. So I just want to, before we hop to the next property, all I want to say, because we got 38 people who are here on this call, and I want more people to know that this exists. If you guys are finding it valuable, right? If I am giving any value, if I'm not, that's okay. But if I am giving value to you, all I ask in return is that you use this link, which I'll share with you guys, and just give it to other people and let them know that they can sign up for this. All this is doing here is letting them sign up for these weekly reoccurring calls on a regular basis. So if you know somebody who would find this valuable, if you want to put it in a Facebook group and you find it valuable, if you could share this link with other people, I would appreciate it more than you know. Okay. And the goal is 1,000 people by the end of the 2 months. And we'll just keep this going and keep this going and keep growing it and keep helping more people and provide more value. So that's my objective. And I'm just asking if you guys can help me with that objective. So thank you in advance. All right. On to the next property. And I know this person. Had a little conversation in New York. Bill Gallagher. Are you still here?
That's a good memory. Yes, I am.
How you doing, Bill?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's your day been?
Not bad. I feel like this first week after Christmas and New Year's is always tough to get back into things.
Yeah, fair enough. I actually got too bored between Christmas and New Year's and just jumped back into it. I was over it.
Yeah, well, you have a fun job. I work for someone else, so it's not as fun.
Well, that's what we're here for, right? Let's get you an Airbnb that you can eventually quit. A lot of people are trying to achieve.
I just want to see before we dive in, this one just randomly came to me and it's actually an arbitrage opportunity. Is that something you can kind of
Yeah.
look at high level as well?
Sure thing. The
Cool,
the
okay.
goal that we're doing here, right, is we're analyzing to figure out what the revenue potential could be for a property, right?
Okay.
And that's a part of the process, whether you're managing it for somebody else and you're trying to give them a quote, that's a skill that you could build up and do. If you're going to rent it, that's a skill that you can do, right? If you're going to buy it, same idea.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
you know, anyone who's on here and they're like, oh, I'm not planning on doing arbitrage, don't worry about it. Just watch what I'm doing and try to pick up on the little things that I'm doing that could help you succeed with this. So
Yeah, because that's really my what I wanted to. That's good to know because that's what I wanted to get out of it because I do have her like prior 2 years numbers and things like that. So really, I'm just trying to see if there's a way to get more revenue out of it than what she's been doing to make it kind of
Okay.
make more sense.
Okay. So what is it currently doing?
So where'd I just put it? Last year, 2024 on Airbnb, she did 94,000. That's a little skewed. I think it's probably closer to 85,000 because she
Okay.
said she had a booking that showed up, had to cancel. Airbnb kept the money and she was able to rebook. So she kind of had a double booking for a month.
Yeah.
And 2023, 85,000. So I think it's probably around that 85 number. So far booked for 2025, she's got 36,000.
Okay. I care a lot more about that 2024 number, just so you know. I'm just going to pay attention to that one for the most part.
Okay.
So 85,000. What's the rent on this property?
3,800. All in utilities is about 47. I'd probably say 46, 47.
Did not spell that right. I know what that means. Okay, give me 1 second. We're going to want to grab a calculator here. I need to go through all my stuff to be able to find it. I have a calculator that I use, which is a rental arbitrage calculator. Just got to pull that one up to be able to find it. I always forget to get this one loaded. Okay. So same thing that we're going to do here is figure out your breaking point more than anything. And then we'll go take a look at the data because it'll speed things up. So the rental arbitrage calculator that I use is different than obviously if you're going to purchase. I'll explain this because it's my own little equation that I made up that I found useful for me. So the first thing is we figure out what the revenue expectation is going to be. Okay. And then the next thing I do is I figure out what's the profit that you want to make, because right away I want to include the earnings that I want to make from managing this property in my equation, because if I'm not making any profit, why am I doing this? Right?
Yeah.
Why am I putting all the money into that property? So that's the first thing. Okay. And then from there, we figure out all of your expenses other than the rent. And so if the rent is the only thing that we keep out of here. Okay.
Okay.
And then what that ends up doing is we minus our profit that we want to make, we minus all of our expenses, and that leaves us with amount of money that we can put towards the rent. And then we divide that rent by 12 and we figure out what the max rent is that you could pay to have that property and still make the profit. Does that make sense?
Yep.
For the most part.
Yeah.
So let's start off here. We'll go 85,000. What do you need to make on this property for it to be worth it for you? Is it $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month?
I'd like to say 2,000 a month.
Okay. So 24,000. What's the cleaning expenses here?
I mean, she charges 180 or she pays 180 a clean.
Okay. We'll times that by.
I think I figured it out where it's about, based off of her nightly rate, it was about 12 to 15,000. Yeah.
Perfect. I got 15 on the high end. Amenities, I'm going to put at 150. So that's your soaps and shampoos. I'm assuming you're not going to pay for the water because you're renting it. You said the property was going for 38 on the rent, and then with all the utilities, it came out to about 47, which means that you're paying nearly 900. Am I getting that right? $900 in utilities.
Well, she does have on her list here, she does have water 100 to 200 a month.
Okay.
Electric 400 to 500 a month.
Okay.
Xfinity is 90.
Like cable?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
assume
Xfinity?
I assume oh yeah, internet.
Oh, internet. Oh, say okay. Sorry. I'm gonna use my Canadian card. I didn't know what Xfinity was. So, pool
And then
maintenance.
yeah, she has like a pest fee. It's $70 every other month, so 35 a month.
Okay. And then what about the pool?
So pool, there's no fee for it. She did say did say there's a revenue opportunity there. She hasn't been charging guests for the heat of the pool.
Okay.
She said that she said this year she was going to implement a charge for heat, which she said probably from January through April, I think she said would be bringing in, about 5,000. But I don't think that's bringing in revenue because I think it offsets with probably the cost of electric.
Better than nothing, in
Yeah.
my opinion, as long as the guests are willing to pay for it and not turn down your property. Any HOA fees?
Nope.
Okay. Internet streaming services. We already got feel like okay. So we got the internet there. Anything else that you can think of, or do I feel like I have everything there for the most part?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. I use the higher end, by the way.
Yeah, you probably have more because like I don't, she doesn't have a maintenance in there or anything like that.
Well, stuff's gonna break, so
Yeah.
you gotta account for that, right? Chair will break or whatever it may be. So it's silly not to include it. So then therefore we got 24,000 in profit, 27,000 in expenses for a grand total of 51,000. The property is currently making 85,000, and so that leaves us with 33,000 that we can put towards rent, and we would divide that by 12, we get 2,800. And the property is currently renting
38.
for 3,800, which means that you'd have to minus this by 12 or by half, sorry, and it would get you to the number. So you technically, as is, could potentially walk away with about $12,000 of profit, but you want to see if we can make $12,000 more, which is what would have to happen. So you'd actually have to be making 97,000 to where it makes now 3,800 on a monthly basis for you to make the $24,000 a year.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Okay. Yep.
I know this is kind of a confusing calculator, but it worked for my brain when I was doing this back in the day. So
Makes
okay.
sense.
So
And
now
she
you're
did say
one
she's profiting about 1,500 to 2,000 a month right now. For
okay.
what
Does she own the property?
No, she arbitrages it.
Okay. That math doesn't math if that's the case. Is she paying 3,800 in rent?
It was 3,700. It just went up this year, but that's not a huge difference.
Okay. Maybe maybe I added a couple more things in or a little bit higher than what she was or something, because the way that I'm seeing it, she should only be walking away with about 12,000 a year, not 18 to 24.
Yeah, so about 1,000 a month. Okay.
Yeah. 1,000 a month, not 15 or 2,000.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a big gap, by the way. That's $6,000 a year. So
yeah,
I'd be looking at that more. Okay, so the question now is, could you do something to maximize this revenue more? So the property needs to make about $97,000 a year. I just want to take a quick look at the property. I'll go at a normal human speed. So we got the living room, 2 photos of it. Kitchen is decent. Dining room is decent. You can get like a better idea of the full space from this photo here. It is really well designed. The photos are good, not great, but they're not terrible by any means. We got a good sized living or bedrooms. Bedrooms are good as well. Bathrooms are good. So, a little fire pit area here. Pool docking. This is a nice little setup, outdoor space. There's a garage,
there's a
but
garage. So I did think you could potentially add like a game room or something like that.
yeah. More little cots over there too. That gets you to the 8 people. My first thought is I don't see a lot of room for improvement because it's already well designed. The photos are already pretty good. And it seems like every square inch, other than all this backyard space, is taken care of. Now, it also seems like this backyard space is on an angle, so you're not really going to be able to do anything over there. Maybe over here you'd be able to do something.
Yeah.
They've got a fire pit. Maybe you could add a couple more chairs, but that's not going to make a huge difference. Again, you could take better photos. There's no, why am I, sorry. Okay. I was missing the photos of the pool for a second. I was like, what is going on there? You were in Jeremy's group, right? Have you talked to him about this property?
I haven't. He was away. I know he just got back, but I haven't yet.
Okay. The only reason I say that is because I would ask Jeremy about the boat rental to see if that'd be possible and what his thoughts are on the boat rental. Because you are backed onto the water. Could you make
Mhm.
some additional revenue from renting out a boat there? And if so, what could you expect? And get his breakdown on that.
Got it.
Just could be additional revenue as well, right? Yeah, but there's just not a ton of space here to do. You do have flat space there, but there's already a fire pit over here. Hmm. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just thinking through scenarios here. Like, what could you possibly do? Could you move the fire pit up there and create like a bigger, better fire pit over here with maybe some more string lights? Could you add string lights around here? Could you turn a little bar down, this space into like a little bar so people can sit right by the water and have some drinks as boat goes by and like wave? I know that's a thing. Could you rent out the boat? Could you rent out the pool heater? Would either of those turn into more revenue if you needed to? Could you turn the couch into additional sleeping so you could go from the 8 to 10? Would that make a difference or not? Uh, like make that into a pull-out, but that's going to kind of ruin some of your space. Could you turn this dining table that you have right here into like a pool table dining table? So now you got a pool table in this specific area. Um, these are, this one right here specifically is one of my favorite ones. It still looks clean. It looks good. You don't have to use the benches if you don't want to, but it's a pool table. You got the table topper. You got the ping pong. For smaller spaces, I always recommend this because it does give you that option. I'm just trying to think through these things, but
Yeah.
before we do that, let's hop over to the data and just try to see if there's any potential for you to even to get to 97 in the first place. Is there anything else you want to tell me, share with me, anything along those lines?
No, I think that's really it. I mean, the garage, she said, is just washer, dryer, and then some storage. So there is potential to do something in the garage.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have any pictures or anything like that of it, but
That's okay. My first thought when it comes to the garage is if you owned it, you could convert it into another bedroom, but you don't own it, so you're not going to do that, right?
Mhm.
That's also a huge lift for you to do. There's permits, there's GCs, it's not your property, like all of these things, even if the landlord said it was okay. Um, so those are just like, general thoughts right off the bat. So obviously we're in Cape Coral. We know what the property looks like. You're near the center of Cape Coral. Is this where is the downtown in Cape Coral, or is there even a downtown? It looks like it'd be
I mean,
this spot right there.
yeah, it is right around there. There's like a Starbucks up there.
Okay.
There's,
Not
it's
much though, right?
downtown. Yeah.
Okay. Um, hmm. Let me grab. It's in a better spot in Cape Coral than I've seen for some other properties, just to say. You know what? I'm gonna redo this. Trying to not grab people who are like waterfront.
Mhm.
I know almost everybody in Cape Coral is waterfront, but I just don't want like this.
Yeah, the waterway is different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. So I'm trying to ignore those people, which will help. I got 41 listings that are all 4 bedrooms. You're a 3 bedroom. So I'm just gonna hyper focus. I know there's gonna be a lot of data for 3 bedrooms, 68. Okay. So right off the bat, what I see is that we have properties that are of the 68 properties that only fall within this small little corner. There's you need to make $97,000 throughout the year for this to work, right? That's what we came up with, 97,000. Sorry, I know this is small. Probably should have made that bigger for you guys. So 97. And if we just look at the data, there's 1, 2, 3 people who are doing 97.
But I don't know what that one below it is.
Yeah, they're projecting that amount. It's only been around for 292, so they're projecting over the next couple of months they'll get up there.
Uh,
I'm just thinking, what I'm doing now is I'm just scrolling down to figure out where the revenue ranges are so we can very quickly see we just fall off a cliff where you do not want to be with this property in the 50s and 60s would absolutely kill you, right? So I know she did 85, but let's say, worst case scenario, I've only scrolled for 2 seconds. You end up in the 65 range. You're out the difference between this and that every single month.
Yeah.
Which nobody wants on an arbitrage deal. Okay, so that's nerve-wracking. But let's take a look at these listings and see if they're comparable. We're gonna start with the base again. We're gonna go a little bit lower. That one's only got 19 reviews, so I'm gonna ignore it. This one's got 35. That one's hosted by Evolve, so I'm gonna ignore it. That's not a good listing, not a good listing. This one seems pretty decent. Sleeps 8 people as well. Let's check the reviews. 1 week, 3 weeks, December, November. Have you seen a legitimate screenshot from her Airbnb profile, or did she just tell you it made 85?
No, she gave me the Airbnb history.
Okay. Okay. Like this looks like good data here. Don't think this property is along the water, so it's going to make a bit of a difference here. Yeah, this one's not on the water. So, first glance, you could beat this property. Your waterfront, that's obviously going to help in this area. There's a ton of people who are waterfront, but even like the style of the backyard, it's bigger. The interior is good too, but yours is also good. I know I'm going below the number that she currently did, but I just want to see the competition. I want to see where they're at, right? Get a feel for this to feel a little bit more confident about it before moving forward. Maybe I should check to see if these ones are waterfront before opening them up. That one's not waterfront. This one looks to be waterfront. So right there, that's her property. It says it's making 93, which would be accurate to what she said. If you account for that extra booking. 3 weeks, December, November, October, September, August, July, June, May. Okay, that looks good. But there's nothing to this property. There's no design, there's no amenities. All right, let's skip over this. So I feel looking at these listings down here, they're either not waterfront, not as well designed, don't have good photos. I can very quickly see that just by looking at the 3 that I just looked at, which are all below you. And I can already see that this one's doing more, which we know. I just now feel more confident with that actual number based off of looking at the properties that were doing worse. So now what I want to do is go up a little bit and see what the competition up is doing and see if there's any room there. This one only has 4 reviews, so I'm just choosing to ignore that in this moment. And I'm sure got a bunch on VRBO, but I don't want to deal with that. This one is hosted on Evolve, so we can skip that one as well. This one doesn't look to be waterfront, and it looks to be dated. So I don't know why it would be performing that well. So let's skip over that one as well.
Is this listed because like the revenue on these are showing lower than the other one? So is it listed by revenue potential?
So yeah, revenue potential and then revenue. So it's listed by revenue potential. Even
so the
though
listing
no,
below-
sorry. Listed by revenue. If you look at the bottom left corner number there.
Oh, it's listed by revenue, not revenue potential.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sorry about that. And just to explain the difference, in case anyone doesn't know, it's oh fuck, I don't want to make sorry, I apologize for swearing. I don't want to make it too confusing, but see this one's been tracked for 292 days, okay? And the revenue number is showing 86. However, the revenue potential is showing 108. This listing blocks their calendar for 2 months. And so then what AirDNA is doing is saying that if they did have a full calendar, if they did open up their calendar for the entire year, this is likely what they would make. Okay. If this property was in its first year, it would show 86,000 down here and it would show 86,000 over here. AirDNA would not project what it would do over the full year. It would just say it's done this much. We don't know what it's going to do for the rest of the year. It's a confusing thing that AirDNA does. I don't know why, but they do. But now you understand why there's a difference there sometimes, okay?
Yeah.
With that being said, let's keep going. Actually, I think I was going to look at this one. I had 18 reviews though. It's a luxury property. This one appears to be more up the alley of what you'd be doing. August. Bill, can you tell me why you're thinking about this property? Like, how'd you land on Cape Coral? How'd you land on this property? Why are you in negotiations here? Because if I understand correctly, you live not near here at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, I'm in Connecticut. I've been looking
Yeah.
in Florida. This person actually, I'm in a group that they're in and just reached out. Because we've posted things in the group. She has older kids who are in sports and she's got a promotion at her job. So she hired, actually similar to you guys, she hired a company that finds arbitrage units, and that's how she found the unit. She's a designer by trade. So that's how it kind of designed well, but she wanted to go all in, but then kept getting promotions at work and her kids are busy at sports. So she's like, it's just, I feel like I'm under managing it. So it's probably better to get rid of it. So that's kind of just how we connected on it.
Okay. Okay. If you want if I'm giving like friend to friend, just because I've, talked to you a couple of times now, I personally wouldn't move forward on this property.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this one that's saying that's doing 92, right? Let's say let's say this data is a little bit off, maybe by 5,000 one way or the other, and it could potentially be doing the same as yours. These guys have a giant deck out back and really nice teepee setup over here. The interior's, not all that great, but it's got a more functional and usable backyard, as an example. For you to be able to compete with this property, you've got to, add in this alone right here is going to cost you quite a bit that you just don't want to put into somebody else's property, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of a waste of money. And then they've kind of got you beat back here in a sense. Now, I'm not like your property isn't far off, and the reality is that you could likely manage this better than she was managing it. I think you could. I think you could figure out a way to sleep more people, potentially. I think you could maybe configure the backyard a little bit differently to make it more desirable, maybe even take some better photos, maybe even rent out a boat, maybe even charge for the pool heater, and it could like kind of work for you, right? Like maybe you could get that 97,000 that you're looking for. With that being said,
Yeah.
what would scare me from this property is that you are having to be one of the top performing properties in Cape Coral. Now, mind you, we're only looking at 3 bedrooms, but you're a 3 bedroom and you can't change anything about that because you're renting it. So you're attempting to be a top performer to make this work. And in today's environment, with the way things are going, if things stay steady, that could work for you, right? If anything in the economy dips a little bit, we're now into the world where it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And so you're towing this line with a property that you don't own, like you don't have it under contract. You're not committed to this yet, right? So it's not like you're forced with it and you got to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
You're in a scenario where it's like, if you don't have to take it, why would you take it? And if I'm in your scenario and I'm looking at this, I'm thinking like, yeah, I probably could add a couple $10,000 to the revenue line just knowing what I know, but that's the only way it works. As soon as it doesn't do that, it stops working, and now you're in that scenario where you don't want to be,
Yeah.
right? And Cape
Yeah.
Coral,
I
like,
kind of thought the same thing. I
okay,
was just honestly hoping you had something else to say.
that's quite a few people will try that, like hope that there's something that they're missing. But I mean, that's how I'm feeling, man. So if you're feeling the same way, don't lock yourself into something that you're not feeling 100% confident with. I think there's better opportunity out there. One area, if you do an arbitrage, because I don't do arbitrage, right? I just help people find properties that they could purchase. Austin intrigues me. I've seen some things in Austin that like kind of blow my mind when it comes to arbitrage, just because there's a lot of revenue to be made. The rent is the rent. Like it's I don't know how to explain that. The discrepancy between the amount of rent that you have to pay and what the revenue could potentially be is large. So if you are considering arbitrage, I would take a look, but they obviously have regulations there that you have to understand left, right, and center. And it's a gray area down there. So I don't advise anyone to purchase down there because it's not 100% figured out yet. But anyways, that would be an area that I would be looking if I was in your situation. There's also a ridiculous amount of competition. So that also kind of sucks, but just something to keep in mind.
Got it. Okay, cool. I appreciate it.
course. Anything else I can help you with, Bill?
No, all good.
Okay, cool. So we have 4 minutes left before we finish up. I'm unfortunately not going to be able to get to another property all the way through. I'd like to open it up to a little Q&A if anybody has any questions. So if anyone does want to unmute, raise your hand or just start talking and ask me a question, go for it. And we can kind of go from there. And but before we do that, one thing I do want to say is that if you guys know anybody who I know I mentioned already, of if you know anybody who wants to join these and find it valuable, the link is in there. Please, share that link with people, put it in a Facebook group, whatever you got to do. Get it out to more people. We're going for 1,000 people over the next 2 months. I'm going to repeat that pretty well every single time we do these because I want to grow this and get in front of more people. But at the same time, what I do best and what my company does best, STR Search, is we help identify properties that would be profitable properties for people to purchase. And so if you're in that situation or if you know anybody else in that situation and you want to hire us, give somebody on my team a call. I'm just going to put the link in there and reach out to anybody on my team if you are curious about doing that, okay? And if you know anybody else, share that link with them as well. Okay, with that being said, does anybody have a question?
Hey, John, I have a question about next week's call.
Yep.
So will you go down the existing list or are we going to have to resubmit?
It'll have to be resent. And the reason being is because the properties are going to go pending, they're going to get sold, all those sort of things. And so we can't go through the list over and over again. So every single week, we're going to resend out the list. Leah, is it going to be 15 minutes or 30 minutes prior?
It'll be 15 minutes prior to, and then 24 hours prior to.
That we're going to send out the form?
Yes.
Okay, so 24 hours. So 3 p.m. Eastern on Monday. Lock it into your calendar. You're going to receive an email and try and get it in as fast as you possibly can.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Again, if not, guys, if you don't get the property in, it's okay. Just, try to learn as much as you can just going through. Appreciate that question though, Matthew. Anybody else have any other questions? Did you guys find this useful? If you did, please, put a little thumbs up or a comment or yeah in the chat. I always appreciate knowing that this is useful to you guys as you're going through. So do appreciate that. But please unmute if you have a question. We got about 2 minutes left here.
There is a question from Avneet at the top of the chat. She's asking, how does the management company screw the data? What changes are those?
Okay. I don't exactly know without a doubt, but it is when you're managing a lot of different properties all at once, you tend to be 100% focused on tweaking all the tiniest little things to adjust the listing. Maybe you pause it, turn it back on. I really don't know. There's a lot of little things that I've seen from working with TechVestor that little changes can kind of screw up the data a little bit. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is that there was an error with a PMS company, similar to like Guesty, like a company that people use, a third-party company that wasn't integrating properly with AirDNA's data the way it was scraping, and it was screwing up a lot of the numbers. It wasn't a huge portion of it, but it was a portion. And so I just don't like management company data because I always find that there's discrepancies in the data. And if you find it across like 2 or 3 of them, it's really hard to trust any of them. And so that's why I don't use them. Hopefully that's helpful. Samuel, you have a question?
Yeah, man. Thanks for doing this. You're way more plugged in obviously on what's going on with it, but do you have any opinions on like the internal workings of just listing with Airbnb versus VRBO? Like I have an Airbnb in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm just trying to decipher, like, obviously Airbnb has some algorithm. I would think that they're pushing listings to the first page versus this and that. If there's like a huge like calendar block or something like that they see, do they push it to the side, or have you had any insight on that?
That one I don't know. So one thing to keep in mind, everybody, is in case you guys don't know my personal life, is that in 2020, my entire portfolio of Airbnbs kind of got wiped away due to COVID. I was able to sell off all the contracts and whatnot, but I've been hyper focusing on just Airbnb data and acquisitions, right, and helping other people do that. So I don't actively day-to-day manage an Airbnb, which is kind of crazy to say, but it is the truth. I'm trying to get back to it, but I don't know exactly what equation that AirDNA is using to figure out who gets ranked on page 1 or page 2. There are, though, a handful of guys out there that are significantly better at this stuff than I am. So Rank Breeze is one company that I strongly recommend everyone look into, and IntelliHost is another one. If you don't use their softwares, you can at least look up podcasts or webinars or things along those lines that those companies put out, and they're going to give you a lot more information. As for should you be on Airbnb and VRBO? I personally hated being on VRBO, but I was in Chicago, right? I hated their platform. I hated the way it worked. I hated their everything. It drove me nuts. And so I also didn't need to be on VRBO because VRBO is vacation rental by owner, and they've been around way longer than Airbnb, but very heavily in traditional vacation markets, right? And so if I was in a traditional vacation market, I would be on VRBO for sure, because there's a lot of legacy users who are still on VRBO that will go there looking for an Airbnb or looking for a property. But if I'm in a city, I'm probably not going to be on VRBO because it's not really needed. And from my experience, 4 years ago, maybe different nowadays, but just that's what I've noticed. So you could test it. If you find that it's working, great. If you find that it's not, then just get rid of it. And it's not the end of the world. I don't really know if there's a difference though if you have a bunch of blockings and if that's going to lower your ranking. But Rank Breeze is definitely a company that can give you the data to let you know where you're ranking on the pages. And as you make changes, you can see if you're falling in your ranking or if you're moving up in your ranking.
All right, sweet. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Also, Danny from Optimize My B&B is the guy when it comes to optimizing B&Bs. He puts out the most content there. Okay, so we're at time. We're just a little bit over. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll be back next week for another 2 hours. Again, let other people know. If you want my company to help you find a property, it's what we do best. Please reach out, schedule a call, at least hear us out. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. So I love it. I love these. It's a ton of fun. I'll be back. Thank you, Leah, for the support. Thank you, everybody, for doing this. And I'll see you next week.